Good morning, class. Happy Tuesday. Today is March 24, 2020. Today's learning target is for you to prepare to start watching LA 92. I originally was going to have you guys start watching it today, but I think by the time you finish this video and you kind of figure out what's going on, that's going to be quite a bit of a time commitment to start watching it today. So we're just going to push the start back to tomorrow. Hopefully means today will be a pretty short, small amount of work for you to do. Here is the plan for today. First, I'm just going to review the citizenship worksheet that you guys did. I believe it was last week about citizenship, just the facts. So it was a bunch of bullet points you had to fill in. Just going to give you the answer key for that. So hopefully you can correct whatever you got wrong there and make sure you have the right answers for that. So we'll go through that first. Then I'm going to give you 2 video clips to watch, and maybe I'll actually just show you them on this video. We'll see. But one of them is about Rodney King, who is the central quote character end quote of this documentary. The other one is just a trailer for this documentary to give you a glimpse of what it's going to look like. After that, what I'm going to do is explain our plan for watching this documentary. This is something that's going to take us multiple days. I just want to go through kind of how it's going to work before we actually start watching it. So there's nothing really work-based that you have to do, but I do ask that you watch the entirety of this video just to prepare for you when we start watching this documentary tomorrow, and then hopefully you won't have any questions or anything that you're confused about. Quick reminder before we start, check your emails, check PowerSchool, check comments I'm making on Google Classroom. Don't be shy about asking for help or advice or anything from me. Thank you guys for filling out those surveys. From what I'm hearing, it seems like the amount of work so far has been reasonable. I hope everything's been clear. I know it's not ideal to do it all online, and for some people it's easier than others. I just want to encourage you once again to be proactive and advocate for yourself. If you're confused or need help with anything, please reach out to me. I am here to help, answer your questions, give you feedback, whatever you need. I want to make the most of this opportunity that we can. So first, for that worksheet, if you want to go to that on Google Classroom and just make sure you correct whatever you got wrong. The first box talked about birth. There's 2 main ways you can become a citizen through birth. One is to be born in the United States. The other one is if your parents were U.S. citizens. So even if you're born somewhere else, you still become one. The main things you need to become a naturalized citizen, requirements for that, they asked for 6 of them. 1, you have to be at least 18 years old, and 2, a 5-year resident. That means you have a green card and legal permission to live in the United States. 3rd, you need to demonstrate good character. If you have a bad legal history or something like that, you're not going to become a U.S. citizen. You need to be able to speak/know English well enough. Doesn't have to be perfect, but well enough to function. There's a blog post about that, whether you think that's a good or a bad idea to have as part of this process. You will then go through a test/interview that will test kind of your knowledge of the country, the history, the civics part of it, and an interview as well. Once you pass that, you will end by taking an oath of allegiance, pledging your loyalty to the United States, and confirming your new status as a U.S. citizen. In the next part, the groups given citizenship: African Americans, Native Americans, and Asian Americans. For voting, the group that always had voting rights were not just white men, but white male property owners. And if you just wrote white males, you might think that I'm being picky for marking it wrong, but realize not all white men could vote at the start of our country's history. You had to be a middle upper class citizen, which means you owned property. If you were like a tenant farmer or something like that, you weren't going to be able to vote because you were low class. They didn't want you voting. 1870, that gets expanded after the Civil War to African Americans. 1920 is women. 1947 is Native Americans. For 1971, it is 18 through 20 years old because we lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. So 18, 19, and 20-year-olds were added as well. And some of you seniors are going to turn 18 or are already 18 will be able to vote, assuming you register this November presidential election. Different rights for U.S. citizens. They have the right to vote, run for office, serve on a jury. Rights for U.S. residents. These are people who live in the United States, but they're not citizens yet. They just live here. Freedom of expression, worship, assembly, petition, all the rights you have in the Bill of Rights, which we'll talk about in the next unit once we're done with this one. Responsibilities. Everyone in the United States must obey the law. For U.S. citizens, we have responsibilities, which means they are not required. They are just strongly encouraged to vote. And civic responsibility to serve on a jury when you are asked. And male U.S. citizens must register with Select Service, although we don't currently use a draft system to adopt people into the military. You don't have to write this down, but I had students do it in the past. But there was another box that's usually on this worksheet that I did not include this time around. That's just the idea that all U.S. citizens must be loyal to the United States. That is what the Oath of Allegiance is about. That's what the Pledge of Allegiance is about. Defending the nation. That is something that is expected / required. The idea of treason and betraying your country, obviously not going to work in a democratic nation or any country for those citizens. Yeah, so just make sure you got the right answers here. If you want to do a retake on this because you did poorly the first time, I'm not quite sure what retakes are going to look like right now, just with everything going on and having this all be online. If you want to do a retake, just reach out to me and I will brainstorm some ideas and try to make it work. Just realize with the change and how everything's going, there might not be a way for it to work and you might not get a chance to do it. So try to do work really well the first time. So I'll let you guys watch this on your own time. I'll post the links to these videos. But this is a picture of Rodney King. Rodney King is the person, the start of this story, the person that the story centers around. Rodney King was someone who got beat up by a bunch of police officers, and it was caught on camera. And it being caught on camera creates a new dimension to this idea of police brutality and equal rights across different races. And in a place like Los Angeles, which is extraordinarily diverse in an already diverse country, I say this from personal experience because I've lived close to Los Angeles. This was something that was very controversial. You'll figure out the rest of the story later. I'm not going to spoil it for you. But this is the guy, Rodney King, that's going to be the focus of this documentary. LA 92. I'll put a link here that gives you a trailer to it. I do not want you starting to watch this documentary today, so please don't work ahead, because you're going to get more information tomorrow that you will want to know before you start. One thing that I'm going to ask you guys to do is really think about the idea of perspective and different points of view in this documentary. It's going to be part of one of the assignments you have to do. I want you to think about, what does this story look like? It's 100% real life. Nothing's made up. There's no actors. There's no narrators. It's real, 100%. What does this story look like from various groups of people's perspectives? This is a pretty simple cartoon, but I think it makes a good point in times even like today, with everything that's going on. For Christians, it's really important to look at situations from multiple points of view, because the way that you view something might look different than the way somebody else does. And if we are called to love because Christ first loved us, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength, as well as to love your neighbor as yourself, being able to at least try to see things from their perspective is an absolute must. I am hoping that this is one of the biggest things you take from this film. Looking at this story of the Los Angeles riots of 1992 from the perspective of blacks, of Asians, of government officials, of police officers, and trying to view things from their point of view. So please pray over that. Please really think about that before you start watching. How can I view this from the lens of all the different people involved in this story? So here's kind of the agenda that'll be starting tomorrow. We're going to take at least 4 days, and I might actually split it up into 5. I got to figure out exactly where I want you to end after each day to watch this documentary. It's called LA 92. It's on Netflix. Most of you said that you have access to Netflix, so that shouldn't be a problem. And if you're someone who said no, I will be reaching out to you separately, and we'll come up with some sort of plan and hopefully find a resolution to give you access to this documentary. But one thing I don't want you to do is I don't want you to, quote, binge watch and, quote, the entire thing in 1 or 2 days. Part of the reason I'm splitting this up is, one, to respect your time. Two, I want this to really soak in, and if we watch all of it at the same time, I'm not going to let these ideas, the questions you'll have, hopefully the challenges that you'll encounter with this, it's not going to be able to soak in as well as I want it to. It's just going to flood and rush over. So please don't binge watch it. Let ideas soak in. I'm looking for kind of depth here, not so much breadth, going deeper rather than wide. So what you'll do each day is take notes on two different things, and I'll give you more details about this tomorrow. One, you're going to choose a top movie moment for that day. Please don't choose that until after you're done watching that day, because if people choose it in the middle, there might be something that happens later and that day's allotted time of watching that actually sticks out more to you than what it did before. So each day you'll choose your top specific moment from what you watched, explain why it was the top one that stood out most to you, and then you're going to be taking notes to help write a reflection-based paper in which you are going to look at the key ideas from this unit. I will post a list of them on Google Classroom, so don't worry about it yet. You're going to see how this film connects with that and what we can learn about those ideas from this documentary. One thing I want to try, and this is not usually something I do because usually we can do this in class when we're all together. I have used Flipgrid before. I think some of your teachers might be trying this out. I have no idea what your other teachers are doing. But I know they mentioned it before we started this online learning process. I have used Flipgrid before once. To be honest, it didn't go well, but I don't think it was because Flipgrid is bad. I think the idea of Flipgrid is really cool, and I think it's especially cool considering the fact that we don't get to see and talk with each other every day. What I'm looking for you to do is post these short videos where you explain your top movie moment, you explain why you chose it, and you also get a chance to respond to what other people's top movie moments were too. And I'll explain kind of how you join our Flipgrid class and how you post and respond to these videos. For what it's worth, I am planning on watching this with you. I am planning on breaking it down the same way we are over a span of 4 days, and I'll share my top moments and respond to yours too. Maybe not to everybody's, but at least to a couple. I'll try to mix it up a little bit. That will be a part of this. And then that reflection-based paper, that's probably what's going to end up being, I don't know, probably a part of your test grade if we're being honest. I think the Flipgrids and top movie moments, I don't know if that'll be homework or classwork or maybe even a quiz grade. I've got to figure that out yet. You're going to be writing a reflection-based paper in which you take this film, the story, and you connect it and explain further the ideas we've talked about in this unit. If you have questions, you can ask me now. Otherwise, I'll post more specific detail on exactly what all of this looks like. A couple things I'm going to ask from you for watching this documentary is, one, if you have especially younger siblings, I don't want them watching this. This is going to be pretty intense in terms of there's going to be some pretty intense scenes of violence. You're going to have some pretty strong language, words that start with F and N. Those are definitely things that I don't want younger siblings to watch. But second thing, and I know this isn't cool and you probably don't want to do it, and I'm not going to make you do it, I think it'd be kind of a cool opportunity if you want to watch this with your parents, just to kind of bounce ideas off each other and see how they're viewing this compared to you. I think they learn a lot from it, and what else do you have to do besides spend time with your family right now? So maybe you can watch it with your parents, but definitely don't watch it with younger siblings. If you feel uncomfortable watching this, or if you don't have access to Netflix, or if there's something else that's a problem with doing this, the sooner you can reach out to me, the better. That way we can get things straightened out before we start. I do have alternative activities which I personally don't think will be as meaningful for you as this in the back of my mind, but I am willing to do that if necessary. But please reach out for that, otherwise you'll be expected just to do this with everybody else. If you have questions, let me know. Please be praying over this. This is, like I said, one of the top 2 moments in this class. I really want it to be meaningful for you, and the fact we have to do it separately kind of stinks, but I still think it's going to be really cool for you. So please pray over it. Be safe, be healthy, stay at home. We'll talk to you more tomorrow.